So first off, thanks everyone for joining our second Summer 2020 webinar series today. Today we're going to cover all things about embedding your map. So it's obviously very important that your users can access the map, find it easily on the website. We have lots of ways to do that and share that information. So we're going to cover everything about that today as far as your map goes. My name is Courtney Conover. I am a Client Success Manager here at Concept3D. There's my information on the screen. As always, we love to hear from you all. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself or any of your Client Success Managers, and we're happy to assist you. Throughout this webinar, we do have that Q&A box for you. So if any questions come up, please feel free to add them into that Q&A box. If it's something quick, I do have a team member who will respond right away. Otherwise, we'll go ahead and save some time at the end to answer those as well. So for today's webinar, first we're going to start off with an overview. So just what are the options we have with embedding and sharing the map? What are some advanced features that we might find and that you have available to you today, as well as some best practices. So just some big things to consider as far as different devices and users and how they experience the map. Second, we'll move into the live demo. So I'll show you where to find all of these URLs, embed codes, and how to create some more specific ones and different views of your map. And then lastly, we'll go ahead and leave some time for those questions at the end. So first off, to get us started here, are our share options. So with the map up here in the top right-hand corner, every single client of ours has their own unique URL. So this should hopefully look familiar to most people. You have a map.concept3d.com URL, and then you have a specific map ID for you. So this is kind of your basis, and absolutely you can use this URL by linking out to it. You can embed that directly onto your website. But let's say we wanted to get a little bit more customized with that. So over here on the left-hand side is where we have our two biggest options to share that map. So the first one is going to be an iframe. So this is the ability to insert that map within a page layout. So this can exist on an additional subpage of your website. So over here in the right-hand side, you'll see our URL example. So it's colorado.edu/map. So this is still connected to their main colorado.edu website, and they have a dedicated web page for the map itself. So if I go ahead and click on this URL right here, we'll see the map is going to open up in a new window, but it's a full page experience. So this is going to be the first, I would say, recommendation from Concept3D. If you want to mask that map.concept3d.com URL and have that live on a page of the website, this is going to be a great option. So a full page iframe is going to give you the ability to have a great experience no matter what device you're on, and you're still showing that you're within your web page. So users actually aren't seeing our URL at all, but we're not having any issues as far as different devices and users interacting with the map. So something that does go kind of hand in hand with that iframe is going to be what we call a custom share URL. So if the full page iframe is a route or an option that you'd like to take, we do have ways to create different URLs across the map. So every location that you have in here, every tour is also going to have a URL tied to it. So it's important that we make sure that that URL matches for consistency and branding purposes. So if we are setting up that full page iframe, returning back over here to CU Boulder, if I go ahead and drill down into an individual location, I'll show you where that custom share URL is going to come into play. So when I'm in a location, up here in the top left-hand corner, you'll see a share button. So when I click on this, this will give your users the ability to copy a link directly to that location. So we still are seeing that colorado.edu/map URL in here, and that's because they have set up that custom share URL. So this is a great way to just have consistent branding and go ahead and make sure that everything is falling under your brand. So this is one thing we'll talk about today on how to set that up and make sure that everything is working correctly for your map. The second big option that we have to share is what we refer to as a CNAME. So these can be used as an alias from one name to another. This does require Concept3D to assist you in setting this up. We include a security certificate. It's just a little bit of work with our development team, but in the long run, it's nice and easy and a clean URL. So this one actually isn't using an iframe. What we do is we go ahead and set up that CNAME so that when someone is visiting map.psu.edu, it's actually connecting it directly to your Concept3D URL. So this is a great way, if we don't even want to mess with the iframes or setting up that custom share, we can go ahead and just set up this CNAME to make sure it's a nice, clean, and easy experience for your users. So moving on to some advanced embedding and sharing options. These are all things that are available within your basic subscription. So none of these are an additional cost to access. We highly encourage to use these because the more you have your map in different areas of the website, the more you share it, the more users are going to be visiting it. So we want to make sure it's accessible for them everywhere. So the first one that we have is what we refer to as static maps. So this is the ability to embed a smaller image pinpointing a specific location on the map. So over here on the right-hand side of the screen, we're seeing an example over at CU Boulder. So we see their small image of this specific location. That is actually being generated through a URL. So as maybe the renderings are updated in a year or two from now, you don't have to go back and update those images. Since it's dynamically created through that URL, it will automatically reflect any updates that you have in there. So this is a really great use case if you want to pinpoint a location for specific event pages of websites or buildings, maybe the health center or something like that. So these are really great for those most specific use cases across the website. Next down is query strings. So I'm sure there's somewhere on campus where we maybe want to start with the sidebar closed or hide the footer or hide the top bar. So query strings are going to be a great way to customize the view of the map and hide some certain functionality. So we'll go ahead and talk about how to build the URL structure and what kind of query strings we have that you can include to customize that view of the map a little bit further. And then lastly is private categories and tours. So private is going to be our setting available in the CMS that's going to hide some content from that main map that's embedded on the website. So if we wanted to share a specific category with just a select group of people, we can go ahead and generate a specific URL in order to do so. And then lastly, some best practices and some large things to consider when we're embedding the map on the website. So the first one is going to be for your main map embed. So this is the one that's going to be connected to either that campus map button, something big. This is where you always are pointing users to as your main map. We want to make sure that's on a dedicated page. So in order for the map to have the best experience for users across all devices, we don't want anything inhibiting that experience. So if we have large footers or headers, it could cause some issues in the long run, especially as we switch through different devices. The second is avoiding some small iframes. So we do have some options in order to embed some smaller versions, but we want to make sure that if we are adding in maybe a smaller iframe to a specific web page, we also want to provide a link to open that map into a full screen view. So again, highly considering that mobile experience, we want to make sure that if users do come across that page, they can still open up that map and utilize that content in a great experience. Third is avoiding some scrolling dead zones. So kind of playing into that header and footer. If a mobile device comes across a map that might have some things inhibiting it, we could be forcing users to get caught scrolling the map. So definitely something we want to pay attention to. And then lastly, it's just mobile conscious. So we have about 40 to 50% of users that access our maps through a mobile device. So that's a huge percentage, and we want to make sure that that population is getting the best experience. So just making sure that we're testing our embeds on multiple devices to make sure that there's nothing that's going to cause some issues with that. All right, so let's go ahead and switch into the demo and talk about where to find all this information. So I'm going to switch into the content management system. So hopefully this looks familiar to most people on the webinar today. And the tab I'm going to focus on first is up here in the top. So that blue tab you'll see that says Embed, I'm going to go ahead and select that. So this is a tab that has a lot of great information and helpful items for you in here. So the first item that we're seeing up here in the top section is actually your iframe embed code. So when we just come to the Embed tab, we haven't turned anything on or categories or anything. This is going to be our basic embed code for that default view of the map. So any categories you have defaulted on, the default zoom level, all of that is going to play into this URL. And you can see it's just that basic URL ending with our map ID. So this is probably the iframe code that I would use if I wanted to create maybe that full page iframe embed, just like we were looking at with that Boulder example. And it's as simple as clicking copy embed code and adding that into your web page. Below that, we have what we call link code. So let's say we wanted to maybe add a link into our web page that's going to open this map into a new window. The nice part about this is you can set a name for that link right here. So if we wanted to call this, let's say campus map, I go ahead and type that name into the link, and you'll see it automatically adds that information for me into that link code. And then from here, I can hit copy link code, add that to the web page. So just nice and easy and clean for you to find that information and get that into your website. Lastly, at the bottom of this embed tab is going to be our options. So these are going to be the query strings that we can add to customize the view of the map. So let's say we wanted to start with our map with the sidebar closed, and we also wanted to hide that footer. So you can see as I toggle these on, the link code above as well as that embed code are automatically changing with those query strings. And we can see that, so now after our map ID, we have SBC and SH. So that's letting us know that the sidebar is going to be closed and the footer is going to be hidden within this embed code. So nice and easy way to access those query strings, turn them on, and create some more customized views of the map. Also down here at the bottom, we do have a query string help article. So this is a great resource. Everything down here at the bottom, we have more. So these are just a few of our top query strings that we find that are used. And then this article will connect you to all of the query strings that we have available. So we have lots in order to customize that view of the map. And that's a great resource to use to go ahead and build out those URLs. All right, so let's say we wanted to set up that full page iframe. We have our embed code right here, but we also want to add in that custom share URL to make sure that our branding is going to be consistent no matter where a user is going to hit that URL. So if we wanted to set something up, again, like that Boulder example, we need to add in that custom share URL. So where that's done is within this extensions tab. Go ahead and select that. Hit the share button. And then right here is where we're going to add in that sharing URL. So for the example that we were looking at, it would be colorado.edu/map. And then adding that sharing URL, we also need to add in a little bit of extra code into that iframe. But don't worry, it's provided for you and a nice quick and easy link right here. So where it says get help here, if you go ahead and select that, and then we want to choose embedding maps with a custom share URL. And within this help article, if we scroll down a little bit towards the bottom, is your custom JavaScript that you'll need to include within that iframe code. And so that way, that sharing URL is going to pass through and be consistent across the map. All right, so getting into some more customized views of the map and sharing maybe some specific categories. Up here in the top right-hand corner is a very handy button that we have called Share. So if you select this, you have two options come up. You can either embed maps or copy the link. So let's say we wanted to embed a specific category. Let's say we wanted to showcase parking, and we want to embed this on the parking website page. So what I'm going to do is turn on that category here in the sidebar. And let's say I wanted to maybe zoom in just a little bit to those renderings. So this share button is going to take on everything that you're seeing with the map. So the zoom level, the category you have turned on, all that information is going to reflect in that URL. So however you're looking at the map here in the center is what will be included within that URL. So once I have that category selected, I've zoomed in a little bit to the current view that I want. I'm going to go ahead and hit share. And if I hit copy link, I can just go ahead and share a front end view of that map. So let me go ahead and open that in a new window so you can see what users would be experiencing. So we'll see in the sidebar, I'm drilled down into my transportation category. I have parking turned on, and I'm zoomed in a little bit over here in the map. So that's a great way to share that URL. But let's say we wanted to embed it maybe on the website. If I go ahead and hit embed map, it returns me into that embed tab, but the change here is that it has that specific URL now included in those codes. So now we're not seeing just the basic map.concept3d.com URL. We're also seeing all of the extra information that we've included. So again, nice and easy to create that embed code. From here, we can copy it and add it to that specific web page. So there is the same concept with our private setting. So private is going to hide that specific category or tour within your CMS. But like I said, you can share it through that custom URL. So for example, down here at the bottom, we'll see emergency info category, and it has that private setting turned on for it. So what that means is right now, the map that I have on the website, nobody can see that category since it's just hidden in my CMS. And let's say I need to share this this emergency info with a certain department on campus for review. What I'm going to do is actually turn that category on, return right back up to this share button, either embed map or copy link. And then now once I share that link out and users have access to this, they will be the only ones who can see that information. So we'll see once it loads up here, we have our emergency info category now displaying with all that content on the map. So the only people who are seeing this information are those that have that specific URL. This is not affecting your main map that you have embedded on the website. All right, so this is a good opportunity to talk a little bit about mobile since that is such an important factor. So if I go ahead and pop this into mobile just by inspecting the page, this is a great way to get a visualization onto how your map is going to look on a mobile device. So as of right now, I have it pulled up on an iPhone 10, and you can see there's lots of buttons and pieces of the platform that are really important to access, and it needs to take that full screen in order to do so. So down here at the bottom, we have our home button, share, map links, and up here at the top is how we access that sidebar as well as the search button. So if we have, again, a header or a footer that might be inhibiting this, we'll see some of that functionality be hidden, and it's definitely going to cause a little bit of a difficult experience for your users. So I recommend always either inspecting the page when you're in Chrome and taking a look at it on the mobile device, or just go ahead and pull it up on your phone if that's easier for you. But this will give you a really good sense to make sure that we're allowing the map to take full screen no matter what the device is, and we don't have anything else on that web page that's inhibiting that experience. All right, and last but not least, talk a little bit about the static maps. So let me go ahead and actually pull up that live example that we had a screenshot of within the presentation. So we can see right here, we're drilled down into a very specific page of Boulder's website. So we're at the Center for Student Involvement. We have some information here on the left-hand side, and then our static map here on the right. So like I said, this is really great for pinpointing specific locations on your map and tying those into either event web pages or just building specific web pages. And so that way, when a user does get to this area of the website, they can go ahead and click on that image and it opens it up right into the map for them with that location already open. And so since we're using a URL to put that image on the website, it's dynamic. It will update automatically. So you don't always have to go in there and update that image once maybe some rendering updates are done. We can just count on that to always reflect the current rendering that we have added into the map. So in order to create those, I'm going to refer to our static maps help article because this is going to be your best resource. So with the URL structure, the items in red are going to be the specific things that we need to include. And then the items in blue are going to be the customizations that we can make. So down here below within this table that we're seeing is going to be the information describing what all of these items are. So your map ID is going to be your specific map. The marker ID is going to be for that location. So every single location has a specific marker ID that's unique to it. So including that one is how we pinpoint that point on the map. Zoom level is going to be how zoomed in or out we want to be on the rendering. Scale is going to be the size of the image. And then we can add a label if we would like. So down here below is going to be some sample URLs for those static maps. So you can see a little bit of difference if we maybe add a scale or add a label in here. And if you went ahead and just opened one of those URLs in a new window, you would get something like this. So this is the URL that you can use on all those web pages to make sure that you're pinpointing those specific locations. All right, so that is going to wrap up our demo portion.